Absolutely. And likewise, it's a pleasure. I am talking about one of my favorite topics ever, which is imposter syndrome. And I think it's safe to say that each and every one of us has dealt with it at some point of our lives. So we have to normalize talking about it and accepting that we've all been there. Doesn't matter what we're doing today. We've had a journey, and everyone at some point of their life has come in contact with imposter syndrome. So I'm super excited to talk about it.
Yeah, 100%. So, first off, because I love I love the name NetWerk with an E. When I read that, I was like, yes, you better network, honey. As soon as I read that, I was like, I'm gonna like this person.
Aw, thanks.
Yeah, I got that the other week, and I was like, oh, this person's gonna be the best. I love a pun. I love a pun. And like
Oh.
that is so sorry, I'm crying from laughing so hard because I like you so much. Um, that is just like it's a great example actually. When I saw that, I was like, oh, that's Jen showing who she is and showing up with a risk to be like, oh, I'm gonna do this. This is a
Right.
move. Like it's a very subtle move on like copy when you're reading it, but I was like, that's actually a bold move.
Yeah. We have to be comfortable getting out of our comfort zone, and
Yeah,
this embodies that. We could have picked network, thought with an O,
yeah,
but I'm different, and I'm okay with being different. I've accepted that about myself, and we should
yeah.
all accept that about ourselves.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So let's talk about sorry, to clear the tears out of my eyes. So tell me, what is imposter syndrome? I feel like we've heard the word, the phrase, but for those of us who don't know or we think we know, can you tell me what it is, but what is your interpretation of imposter syndrome?
Yeah. And I think that's a great question because, to be honest, for years, I didn't even know what imposter syndrome was. I didn't realize that's what I was dealing with. But if you think about it, imposter syndrome is that voice that's in our head. It's when we're getting up to do something bold, and that voice is like, "Who do you think you are? Do you know where you're from? Do you know that everyone here is like 10 steps ahead of you?" And it reminds you that, hey, you might not come from a background, or you may not be someone who's probably the most qualified. And it
Yeah.
wants to remind you that. It doesn't want you to break out. It doesn't want you to challenge yourself. It wants to keep you in this box and always make you feel like a fraud when you're getting ready to do something big and bold with your life. So that's what imposter syndrome. It's quiet, it's subtle, it's that voice that's constantly holding you back from going out and getting to what life has for you.
Yeah. Can you speak to, so what I love about when I get to talk to folks like you who are showing up and helping other people, I have a hunch that because you know how to solve it, this is something you might have gone through yourself. And I would
Absolutely
love
right.
to hear about that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I would say I started to recognize that I was dealing with imposter syndrome when I graduated college and I went out into the workforce. And I would look in the mirror and I'd be like, especially like when I'd be in new hire orientation and I'd be with my peers, and they're talking about their parents and their grandparents who've worked at this company and their connections. And I think to myself, my grandparents didn't even know how to read. My parents never even worked corporate jobs. So I'm literally the first person in my family to even be in a room like this, to even graduate and go off and launch a career and work in a more professional environment and a white career. So for me, I always had this feeling when I started that I was behind, that I everybody knew something. Like there was this blueprint and there was this game plan that everyone else seemed to have except for me. And I remember that feeling of constantly being behind and playing catch up, that my peers were here and I was always like 2 steps behind them. And I was always playing catch up and catch up. And there were all these references that I didn't understand. There were all these quiet rules that I didn't understand when I got into the workforce. So that's for me where settled in that I am struggling with feeling like I'm behind and like I'm a fraud, like I'm trying to be something that I'm not because I've never seen half of what I'm trying to become. So that's where that imposter syndrome started. And it took years to overcome that. And
Mm.
that's why I'm so passionate about the topic because it's something that a lot of us deal with, but we don't even recognize that it's there. It's like, why am I always scared before I create something really big? That's very game changing, very exciting. Why do I
Yeah.
always feel really nervous? Or why do I feel like I'm putting on a show or like I'm being fake? And
Mm.
I think that comes from I'm literally starting something and creating something and becoming something I've never seen.
Yeah. How did you start the process of breaking up with it? And when did you realize that's what was going on?
Yeah. The step one is recognizing that it's there. Because in the beginning, I didn't even know what it was. I was like, I'm just nervous. No, I'm not nervous. It's deeper than that. Why? I'm questioning myself. I am wondering why am I here? What am I doing here? Like, think I am, right? So for me, the first step was really understanding, okay, this is there. And I know where it's coming from. I get it. I'm breaking generational curses. I'm the first person. I'm rewriting narratives, right? I'm doing a lot of things that I've never seen. And that's very scary. So I had to acknowledge that. And then the second thing is I had to like give myself like permission to get it wrong. For
Mm.
me, that right there has to be the most important step that I've taken on my journey is recognizing that it's okay to make these mistakes. It's okay. I'm going to stumble harder. I'm going to fumble. I'm going to fall like twice as hard. And it's okay. And learn to almost make fun of it. Like I think back at some of the rules, the corporate rules that I used to break back in the days. And I think to myself, like, I laugh now, but back then I had to learn that it's okay to laugh at yourself. It's okay to get it wrong. It's okay to not be so perfect right away. So that's part of that journey is giving myself grace. So recognizing was there, giving myself grace, and then learning how to become like a silent, like invisible cheerleader for myself. For me, I would
Mm.
say, honestly, Hunter, that was the game changer right there. When I stopped waiting for other people to cheer for me and I had to start to learn, like, you're doing so much that is the first for you. And you're stepping outside and doing things that no one in your bloodline has ever done. Like celebrate these milestones, celebrate your first promotion, celebrate getting that raise, celebrate being chosen to give a presentation. I've never even seen anyone give a presentation in my life.
Hmm.
So I've had to learn how to celebrate things that, might seem like normal for other people, but if they're really big deals,
Yeah.
given the fact that I'm a first gen and I immigrated here and my family never even seen half of the spaces that I've been in the first few years of my career. So
Mhm.
I had to learn how to give myself grace and then also give myself a lot of cheerleading and praise behind the
Mm.
scenes, getting ready to do big things.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Because the problem with outside validation is it's never really there when you need it.
Not always.
And the outside is ephemeral, right? Like everything passes away. And like you said, I love like so many people in your community that probably are your biggest cheerleaders. They just don't even know what you've been up to because they haven't seen it, right? Your family is like, yeah, they haven't been to all those meetings that you have
Yeah.
owned.
Yeah, and they don't even understand it. Like I remember calling my parents and telling them, "Hey, I'm going into human resources consulting." They were like, "What is that?" I was like, "Don't worry, it makes money." And they're like, "Well, thank you."
They're like, are you happy? You can pay, you can eat, you got groceries? Yeah, good.
I'm like,
My
"Don't
bills
worry,
are
I'll
paid.
have money for the holidays. You're good." So, like, they don't know what to celebrate. They don't know what it means to be a speaker and to go on stage and give talks. Like, they know what it is now that I'm doing it. But I realize, like, I have to be comfortable being that person that's introducing my community to things that they've never even heard of before. And that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you talked about too that this is a learned skill and there's an unlearning as well, what I'm hearing. And so because all of this was new to you probably saw some really amazing leaders that were, you're like, oh, how are they doing that? And how are they doing that? And I want to be like that. And now you've absorbed so much of it, and now you're training thousands of new leaders. So, what traits do you do? What are the the traits that are you see that are the most confident, self-assured leaders that tend to have in common?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Hunter. And honestly, one thing I became very obsessed with early in my career is I called it like studying success or sometimes studying money. Like I wanted to follow the money, I wanted to follow the success, and I wanted to understand what do they all have in common. And fortunately, going into training and development, it helped me to be able to became my job, like studying what works and make sure that I can teach it to people. So,
Yeah.
a couple of things that really stood out for me. The number one is self assurance and confidence. One of the reasons why I'm so passionate about teaching confidence is because I truly believe if there's one common link between every successful leader that I've seen is confidence. They have this self assurance about themselves. They
Mm.
have the ability to walk into a room and be able to gain the peace and the approval of people simply because they have this quiet belief in themselves that they're capable of anything. They can make decisions, and when they get it wrong, they're confident in their ability to come and correct their mistakes. So, that confidence and that self assurance, hands down, has to be the most game changing and mutual link between the leaders that I've seen become the most successful.
Mm.
So, I would say confidence is one of them. It's communication. Part of one thing I had to learn throughout my career is the power of there's a way that you have to communicate in order to get ahead in corporate America. And that's again, some people can say it's like games and politics, but you have to learn that sometimes you we have to unlearn certain communications. It's like I'm Nigerian and I know that in my background and in my family career, we communicate in a very different way. And oftentimes that is not an appropriate way in the workplace. So to learn how to there are parts of me that I had to embrace, but didn't necessarily can necessarily bring that to work with me and become successful. So I had to study that leaders have a way to communicate. They have a way to include people. They have a way of listening and interacting and giving good eye contact and carrying their body in a certain way that they exude that confidence and that assurance from an audience. So communication, the confidence, these are some of the soft skills that leaders have. Notice that I haven't really spoken about technical skills because, mind you, technical skills can be learned on the job. So, a lot of what's the differentiator between leaders is they have those soft skills that are hard to learn in the classroom.
Yep. I love that. Yeah. Getting paid to learn is the best way to go if you can do it.
Very much.
Yeah. Uh, the soft skills can be learned, the technical skills can be learned. The confidence thing. For me, confidence is a symptom of other work. So,
Yes,
what work do we have to do to feel confident in showing up?
that is a really great question. I think it boils down to you have to align yourself with things that naturally go with your strengths. So, for example, if you know you're not a numbers person, right, you might want
Calling
to
me out
think
right now, Jen? Are you calling me out?
maybe
How'd you know? See,
to ourselves,
empathetic,
right?
reading people. I see you.
Like I'm very big, and don't get mad. I'm not neither, but I've learned to become one. But
Yeah.
the key really is to ourselves, right? Know what you're good at, and the quicker you can align yourself with career and with things that you're naturally talented in. It's only a matter of learning the technicalities of the job. But
Yeah.
you and yourself and your skills naturally align to a field, then you're more likely to gain the confidence by gaining the competence that comes with being naturally good at what you do. So one thing that I found, one of the reasons why I went into human resources, I studied communication, I went into consulting, I speak. Now I'm in a very people field in real estate. So these naturally align with my desire to interact and help and support people. That's
Mm.
something that comes naturally to me. The customer service, the understanding people, the reading people. If those skills weren't natural to me, I likely wouldn't have chosen my career path, right? So I always encourage people, study yourself, right? I'm like, get very real with yourself. Know what fields make sense given your
Mm.
skills. Because when you're operating in your natural gifts, you tend to be able to learn quicker, you tend to be able to onboard quicker, and you tend to get the competence that's necessary to build your confidence over time. So I would say that is the number one recommendation I always have is if you're someone who's still trying to find yourself, think about what things you do naturally in your day-to-day life. Some of you are organizers, you're involved in your communities, you speak on panels, or you're really good with coding and online and technical things. Align yourself with that because that's going to build your confidence over time so much quicker than constantly being in spaces that don't use your natural gifts.
I love that because I can speak for myself when I'm doing something like a spreadsheet, my eyes cross, and I'm just like, "Ah!" Like, I get totally lost. I'm dyslexic. It's a mess, right? So I have learned to just be like, I need to partner with people that can do that when I need it. Thank goodness my boyfriend is like a I'm always looking at his computer. I'm like, what are you always doing in these spreadsheets? Like, what is happening over here? But,
I am doing.
yeah, exactly. You need it. You need it. And then same in work, right? Finding those people, your advocates that can help support you in a way that helps you, like you said, be in your zone of genius where you can thrive. And what I love about your story is you have, on paper, it would be like, wait, from here to here to here, how did you do that? But when you say it with your story about connecting with people, it completely makes sense and it crosses industries because that is the thing that you're good at.
Right. The thing is, I think we also have to acknowledge that we're living in a time where we can make these pivots. We can jump to and to, and that's not frowned upon anymore. I did
Mhm.
spend time in human resources, and that's what got me into training and people development. But I realized that those are things that I can do in other spaces. So don't pigeonhole yourself. Understand what the mutual link is. I love connecting with people and helping to boost people's confidence. I'm doing that in real estate. When people get that first home, when people are able to open up a business that they've been dreaming about their whole lives, you're helping people make their dreams come true. And for me, I realized that it's not about where you do it, it's about the what and the why, right? So
Mm,
thinking about our careers, always ask yourself, what's the why? Because you can take that why and apply it across different industries. And don't feel bad about that. It's the new normal. So you said
mm,
something really important, Hunter. I want to go back to it. Is you mentioned partnerships. A lot of getting to where I am today is because I knew how to partner with people that were good at things that I learned, right? I didn't necessarily have the business acumen of someone who's had years and years of experience being around businesses. So I had a lot of mentorships. I've had a lot of guidance. I've had a lot of support along the way and people who can fill in the gaps. And again, it goes back to that we don't need to know everything. We have to give ourselves grace and accept the fact that we're always going to be learning. And that's normal. That's the exciting part about life.
yeah, like you said earlier, that we can make mistakes. And I always say, people have heard me say it before, I'm a recovering perfectionist and a recovering people pleaser. Recovering, not recovered, till my
We're
dying day.
trying. We're trying. That's a start.
Right. And it's a little bit more each day and be like, oh, that didn't work today. Oh, was I going back to my old habits? Okay, that's okay. Or maybe was I trying something new? That's okay. How can we learn from it? Right? How can we learn from it? Like you were. So you talk about people moving into their confidence era. So what does that look like day to day, especially for women and other underrepresented folks navigating corporate spaces or male dominated industries?
Yeah, that is that is a wonderful question. And for me, it looks a lot of different ways. The first one is showing up. You have to show up for yourself. You have to carry yourself in a way, and you have to get comfortable being that you're different. You have to accept that. If you're a woman in a male dominated space, or if you're a woman of color or a woman from an underrepresented background, you have to understand that you're not just showing up for yourself, but you're showing up for so many people that desperately need a role model that looks just like you. So I
Mm,
remember that with everything that I do, I remember that there's somebody out there who doesn't have a mentor, who doesn't have a role model. I was one of these people. I never saw someone doing half of the things that I did growing up. Now we have the internet, so we can see people and we can these virtual mentors, but you have to remember that you're showing up for other people and you have to ask yourself, well, what they need to see? They need to see you showing up in spaces that you may feel like you don't belong or you may not deserve. But over time, you have to constantly remind yourself when you walk into a room. This is something I had told myself consciously day to day in the beginning of my career when I walked into a room. I belong here. I earned my spot here. I'm not a DEI hire. I actually met all the qualifications for my job. So I would
Yeah.
constantly tell myself that because I needed to hear that because no one would tell you that every day. No one's going to pump you up every day, but you have to constantly tell yourself or remind yourself that you belong in the spaces that you're in. So showing up, reminding yourself that you belong, and then also carrying yourself and communicating and interacting in a way that screams that confidence is something that's within me. You speak when it's time to speak, when you have an opinion, share your opinion. Believe that your opinion matters just as much as anyone else's opinion in the room. That's part of being in your confidence era. Challenging things you don't agree with, not letting people walk all over you or cut you off when you speak. Let them know, hey, I have a point that I'd like to make, and I'm not done making that point. So confidence is in how you communicate, what you accept, what you don't accept, and then also when it's time to ask for the things that you need in your career, asking for it in a way that you already know that you deserve it. That is, again, I can talk about this for days, but it's so important that we're getting our needs met. And that starts with being feeling like we deserve it as we're asking for it. And that's include raises, promotions, opportunities at work. We have to get comfortable asking for what we want because when we stay quiet, no one can read our minds. No one can hand us opportunities that we never asked for. So it's a daily action. Think of it as like a muscle, right? The more you use it, the more you flex it, the more you speak up for yourself, the more you show up in spaces that you know you belong in. You may not feel like you belong in yet, but you know you belong. The more you continue to do these things day in and day out, you begin to feel more confident. You begin to exude that confidence. And that also starts with giving yourself grace. Understand that you're going to be learning for a while. That's okay. Learning is okay. We're always learning. And forgiving yourself when you make mistakes, because that is going to be a part of the journey, is making a lot of mistakes. Trust me, I made a ton of mistakes and I'm still here. It's okay.
Yeah.
You'll
Yeah.
bounce back. I
Strong and
promise.
wrong, as I like to
I'm
say.
strong and wrong.
Fail big, and just get, okay, gonna get back up. That's all right. Here we go. Learn
What's
something.
next?
Yeah, because what was it between Oprah and Maya Angelou, and Oprah's getting started, and she's like worried about all this stuff, and Maya's like, "You're not that important. Nobody cares." It's like, right. Even me, I'm Oprah, and no one cares if I mess up or if I'm not perfect. Like, even Oprah, and it's like everyone's thinking about themselves. Like, if I mess up, it's so ephemeral, and I have to let go of it. Other people
Right,
have usually let go of it before it even started.
right,
Yeah,
exactly. Good
yeah,
point.
yeah. So there's so much in what you just said too, because we only have 5 minutes left. Obviously, I could talk all day with you about this. You can see I'm very passionate about this,
Thank
and I enjoy you very much. You
Mhm.
virtual mentors, which was I love. I had never heard that before because we talk a lot about like finding a mentor, but you also can have virtual mentors. Maybe you don't meet these people, but they can still be mentors. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. I consider myself a virtual mentor.
You're
I
one of
have
mine now.
audio. Oh, welcome to the club, right? So I share a lot of content. I post on TikTok, I post on Instagram and LinkedIn. And one
Yeah.
thing I always get is a lot of questions, a lot of DMs, a lot of comments on my post. And I'm answering those questions. And you have to see that as I have to remind myself, I'm mentoring people. I'm covering things that they probably don't feel comfortable asking the people in their lives. So it's okay to find people that you look up to and that inspire you and connect with them. Ask them questions, reach out. I'm always willing to answer questions and support people on their journey. So the thing is, you're everywhere. You just have to take the initiative to ask people and find people.
Yeah, that's the same self-advocacy, right? Even in a small way, just going into a DM, not even any
Yeah,
meeting. And that can feel intimidating and scary, or what's the point? And maybe they don't
absolutely.
respond, but at least you tried, right? And then you can
Right,
try again.
exactly. Yeah. Self advocacy is you're doing things that support and promote yourself. It's funny because oftentimes we feel very comfortable supporting our friends and family and other people, but when it comes to supporting ourselves and our careers, like asking for the support, asking someone to help us with something or refer us to an opportunity, that's when we freeze up. But you have to think about it as everything that you do to support and further yourself and get higher into your confidence era, that is advocating to this. And that's okay. Let's not look at it as like I'm a self-promoter and being icky. It's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. If you're supposed to yourself, then you're doing it.
Yeah. So we only have a couple minutes left. What have I not asked you that I should be asking you? What do you want to make sure we touch on before we wrap up?
Yeah, good question. I think part of this journey also requires unlearning. And I would say one question we should all ask ourselves is, what should we be unlearning, right? We
Mm.
should be unlearning humility. I'm sorry, but I hate that word and I'm not sorry. We should not be humble. Let's unlearn being humble, right? I want you to go to work. I want you to tell everyone all of your accomplishments. I want you to make sure that people see you and people understand what value you're adding and bringing. That shouldn't be a secret. If you're launching anything, if you're working on a business idea, if you're coming up with something, it should not be a secret. You need to get out there and tell people what you're up to and unlearn building in silence, being humble, working in quietly. We need to normalize putting yourself out there and letting good things come to you. So we should be unlearning humility. We should be unlearning being quiet about what we're doing and working quietly. That's one thing I had to learn in the workplace. You know, my immigrant parents taught me to go to work, put my head down, be the hardest working person in the room, and go home. But we have
Yeah.
to look up, we have to interact, we have to learn to communicate and interact with people and build relationships and understand that most dreams aren't going to happen with you on an island. You need people and you need to be comfortable connecting with people who can support you along this journey and making sure that they know what you're up to. Again, that is advocating for yourself, and it's so important on this journey.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. And we can be grateful, right? And that's an internal process too.
Yeah.
Grateful and to be like, wow, the growth that I've got, the community that has helped me, these people that have helped me on this journey, but live out loud is what I'm hearing from you.
Yes. Absolutely. Be loud and proud.
Well, Jen, where can folks keep the conversation going? I heard TikTok, I heard LinkedIn. How do we find you?
Instagram, I'm at Jen Ngozi, and that's JenNGozi on all platforms. Send me a message, DM me. I'd love to hear from you. I'm always looking for content ideas, so let me know what you're going through. I can't wait to connect.
Wow, all the platforms. Good for you. That is no small task.
Oh,
You're nailing it, Jen. You're nailing it. Well, thank you so much for this. I
thank
am
you.
going to follow you on all the things and
Oh,
you come back. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
let's keep in touch. Take care, everyone.